Think you can tell the difference between a psychopath and a narcissist? Most people use these terms interchangeably, completely missing the life-threatening distinction that could save them from devastating manipulation. While you're treating a psychopath like they're just a difficult narcissist, you're using completely wrong strategies that make them more dangerous. You're bringing emotional appeals to a predator who sees your empathy as weakness, your boundaries as challenges to destroy. What I'm about to reveal comes from 30 years of FBI criminal profiling research and forensic psychology studies, and 89% of people, including many therapists, get this distinction catastrophically wrong. You can either learn to identify which type of predator you're dealing with and respond appropriately, or you can keep using the wrong playbook and become their next victim. Today, I'm going to show you the 7 critical differences that separate psychopaths from narcissists, differences that determine whether you're dealing with someone who's emotionally damaged or someone who's neurologically dangerous. Let's start with the most shocking difference that changes everything about how you should respond. Difference number 1, the empathy divide. The first critical difference lies in their neurological capacity for empathy, and this distinction could save your life. Narcissists have damaged empathy. They can feel it, but it's buried under layers of trauma, shame, and defensive mechanisms. Research from UCLA's Department of Psychology shows that narcissists actually have hyperactive mirror neurons, meaning they feel others' emotions intensely but shut down this capacity to protect their fragile self-image. Psychopaths have absent empathy. They literally cannot feel what others feel due to structural differences in their brain's emotional processing centers. Dr. James Blair's neuroimaging studies at the National Institute of Mental Health reveal that psychopaths show no activation in brain regions responsible for emotional empathy, even when directly witnessing suffering. This means a narcissist might feel guilty after hurting you and potentially change their behavior if properly motivated. A psychopath will feel nothing and see your pain as confirmation that their manipulation is working effectively. I observed this difference with 2 different individuals. The narcissist would become defensive and angry when confronted about their hurtful behavior, but showed genuine distress when they realized the impact. The psychopath listened to the same feedback with calm interest, taking mental notes about which tactics caused the most damage. Difference number 2, the motivation matrix. The second critical difference is what drives their destructive behavior, and understanding this determines your entire response strategy. Narcissists are driven by ego protection. Their cruelty serves to maintain their fragile self-image and avoid the crushing shame of feeling inadequate. Their manipulation is defensive, designed to preserve their grandiose self-concept against perceived threats. Psychopaths are driven by stimulation seeking. They manipulate and harm others for entertainment, control, and the neurochemical reward they get from dominating others. Their cruelty is recreational, serving no defensive purpose but providing genuine pleasure. Research from Harvard's Department of Psychology shows that narcissists' aggression spikes when their self-image is threatened, but decreases when their ego is sufficiently inflated. Psychopaths' aggression is consistent and calculated, unrelated to their self-esteem but tied to opportunity and boredom levels. This means you can sometimes manage a narcissist by carefully managing their ego needs. With a psychopath, any attempt at management just provides them with more information about your vulnerabilities and more entertainment through your efforts to control them. Difference number 3, the relationship blueprint. The third critical difference is how they conceptualize and use relationships, revealing their true danger level. Narcissists view relationships as ego supply sources. They need constant admiration, validation, and attention to maintain their inflated self-image. You exist to reflect their greatness back to them. When you fail to provide sufficient narcissistic supply, they become angry and punishing, but they still need you to fulfill this function. Psychopaths view relationships as resource extraction opportunities. They systematically identify what you have that they want and create relationships specifically to gain access to it. You're not a person to them. You're a collection of assets to be harvested. Dr. Robert Hare's research with the psychopathy checklist reveals that psychopaths approach relationships with the strategic planning of a business acquisition. They assess your financial resources, social connections, emotional vulnerabilities, and practical skills, then craft a persona designed to gain maximum access with minimum investment. The narcissist needs you to think they're wonderful. The psychopath needs you to give them what they want. Once a psychopath has extracted your resources or grown bored with the challenge, they'll discard you without a second thought. A narcissist will keep cycling back because they need your validation. Difference number 4, the emotional signature. The fourth critical difference is their emotional expression patterns, and recognizing this can prevent years of confusion and trauma. Narcissists have volatile emotions. They experience genuine rage, hurt, joy, and fear. But these emotions are disproportionate and self-centered. Their emotional responses are real but immature, like a child's emotions in an adult's body with adult capabilities for harm. Psychopaths have performed emotions. They display whatever emotional expression serves their current goal, but these are learned behaviors rather than felt experiences. Their emotional range is limited to variations of anger, boredom, and predatory excitement, but they can simulate the full spectrum of human emotion with disturbing accuracy. Neuroscience research from the University of Wisconsin shows that when narcissists experience emotions, their brain scans show genuine activation in emotional processing centers, even if the triggers are self-serving. Psychopaths show minimal emotional brain activity, but high activation in areas associated with planning and goal-directed behavior during emotional displays. You can sometimes reach a narcissist through their genuine emotions, even if those emotions are self-centered. With a psychopath, every emotional display is strategic theater, designed to manipulate your responses. Difference number 5, the change capacity. The fifth critical difference determines whether there's any hope for improvement, and this knowledge could save you years of wasted effort. Narcissists can change with intensive therapy, genuine motivation, and usually a significant life crisis that forces them to confront their behavior patterns. The change is difficult, requires years of work, and often involves periods of depression as they face their underlying shame and trauma. But neuroplasticity research shows their brains can develop healthier emotional regulation patterns. Psychopaths cannot change in any meaningful way with current treatment methods. A comprehensive 30-year study from the University of California found that therapy often made psychopaths more effective manipulators by teaching them the language of emotions and recovery without the corresponding internal experience. The difference lies in their neurological hardware. Narcissists have damaged emotional processing that can potentially be repaired. Psychopaths have fundamentally different brain structures that cannot be altered through therapy, medication, or life experiences. This means there might be hope for a narcissist who genuinely wants to change and commits to intensive treatment. There is no hope for a psychopath to develop genuine empathy or remorse. They can only learn to better mimic these emotions. Difference number 6, the violence threshold. The sixth critical difference is their relationship with violence and aggression, and this knowledge could literally save your life. Narcissists use reactive violence. They lash out when their ego is threatened, their control is challenged, or their self-image is damaged. Their violence is emotional, often impulsive, and typically followed by either justification or genuine remorse, depending on their level of self-awareness. Psychopaths use instrumental violence. They harm others as a tool to achieve specific goals, whether that's control, entertainment, or resource acquisition. Their violence is calculated, often premeditated, and never followed by genuine remorse. FBI behavioral analysis shows that narcissistic violence often escalates during relationship conflicts, custody battles, or public humiliation. Psychopathic violence can appear without warning and often seems disproportionate to any triggering event because it serves internal goals invisible to observers. The narcissist might hit you in a rage and feel terrible afterward. The psychopath might hurt you methodically while maintaining perfect emotional control, then comfort you afterward to maintain their access and control. Difference number 7, the recovery impact. The seventh critical difference is how their abuse affects your recovery process, and understanding this is crucial for your healing. Narcissistic abuse creates what therapists call complex trauma. You're dealing with emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and ego attacks, but the narcissist's genuine emotions mean there were probably moments of real connection mixed with the abuse. This creates confusion about what was real and what was manipulation. Psychopathic abuse creates what specialists call predatory trauma. You're recovering from systematic exploitation by someone incapable of genuine human connection. Every moment of apparent intimacy was calculated performance, which can shatter your ability to trust your own perceptions about relationships entirely. Recovery from narcissistic abuse often involves grieving the person you thought they could become. Recovery from psychopathic abuse involves accepting that the person you loved never existed at all. They were a carefully constructed character designed to exploit your specific vulnerabilities. The narcissist damaged you while experiencing some genuine feelings. The psychopath damaged you while feeling nothing but satisfaction at their effectiveness. How to identify which one you're dealing with. Here's your practical identification guide for determining whether you're facing a narcissist or a psychopath. The empathy test. Describe genuine suffering, yours or someone else's. A narcissist will either make it about themselves or show discomfort and change the subject. A psychopath will show inappropriate interest or subtle excitement. The accountability test. Point out a specific harm they've caused. A narcissist will defend, justify, or attack, but show emotional activation. A psychopath will remain calm, possibly apologize strategically, but show no genuine distress about the impact. The boundary test: set a clear, reasonable limit. A narcissist will argue, negotiate, or have an emotional reaction. A psychopath will appear to accept it while immediately planning how to circumvent it. The consistency test: observe them across different social contexts. A narcissist's personality remains relatively consistent, but their mood varies dramatically. A psychopath's personality shifts completely based on what each audience rewards. How to respond to each type: your response strategy must match the type of predator you're facing. For narcissists, gray rock method can work, but expect emotional escalation first. Professional therapy might help if they're genuinely motivated to change. Careful ego management might reduce their destructive behavior. Document everything, but know they might respond to accountability. For psychopaths, complete no contact is the only safe long-term strategy. Never attempt therapy or reasoning. It only provides them with better manipulation tools. Expect escalation if they realize you're withdrawing. Focus on legal protection and safety planning. The key insight: narcissists are emotionally dangerous people who might change. Psychopaths are neurologically dangerous people who cannot change. Remember the 7 differences that could save your life. The empathy divide: damaged versus absent empathy. The motivation matrix: ego protection versus stimulation seeking. The relationship blueprint: supply source versus resource extraction. The emotional signature: volatile versus performed emotions. The change capacity: possible versus impossible improvement. The violence threshold: reactive versus instrumental aggression. The recovery impact: complex versus predatory trauma. The most dangerous mistake is treating a psychopath like a narcissist. Your empathy, boundaries, and emotional appeals will be used against you by someone neurologically incapable of reciprocating human connection. Know the difference. Respond appropriately. Your safety depends on understanding that while both are dangerous, only one of them is truly human. If you found this video helpful, hit subscribe for more content on psychological dynamics and social influence. Keep checking back daily for more pragmatic principles. And drop a comment below, share your own personal experience. See you in the next video.